It starts at a rooftop mixer you almost skip. You're not the networking type. Never have been. Small talk feels like swallowing gravel, and free drinks don't make the forced laughter more tolerable. But your friend drags you anyway, saying, "Come on, just 1 hour. Smart people, low stakes." You show up in a hoodie. They're all in business casual. At first, you hover by the edge, watching neon startup founders buzz from one conversation to the next, like bees in linen blazers. The rooftop is draped in string lights. The catering is mediocre. The optimism is oppressive. Then someone mentions machine learning and your ears twitch. You drift closer. There's a group huddled around a guy named Brandon. He's got the confident posture of someone who peaked in high school debate and never noticed. He's pitching a platform that uses predictive behavior mapping to optimize online retail. Sounds cool, you say offhandedly, but it won't work. Heads turn. Brandon raises an eyebrow, and you are. You shrug. Someone who's already done it. Laughter, some genuine, some uncomfortable. But you're calm. You've been dismissed before. It doesn't shake you anymore. Brandon smirks. All right, genius, enlighten us. So you do. You explain the flaw in their modeling approach, how their behavioral assumptions ignore cross-platform signal bleed. You talk about user fingerprinting real-time contextual prediction, and the way neural nets can adapt on the fly to micro-behaviors if they're trained right. You don't pitch. You just talk, and they listen. By the time you finish, Brandon's grinning like a poker player who just saw your full hand. You want to build this together? You hesitate. You've never wanted to be in business. You just like building things that work. But something about the moment, the rooftop, the challenge, the spark of real interest pulls you in. Maybe you say, depends. On what? You finish your drink. On whether you're serious or just collecting ideas to put your name on later. Brandon laughs. Come on, we're not like that. You don't know yet how wrong that sentence is. You don't know yet that this rooftop conversation is going to spiral into an empire one built on your code, your sleepless nights, your genius, and that one day they'll act like you were never there. But right now you just nod. You say yes. And the storm begins. You don't get a desk. You get a chair in Brandon's garage. The startup isn't real yet, just an idea with a logo and a Google Drive full of optimism. The team is 3 guys and a shared Spotify playlist. But they look at you like you're the key to all of it. Like you're the wizard who will turn vaporware into venture capital. So you start building, not because they deserve it, because the challenge is beautiful. The algorithm you've been quietly sketching for months, the one no one wanted to fund, the one your last boss called conceptually cute, finally has space to grow. You code through the night with headphones on fingers, twitching like they're following sheet music. It's not just predictive modeling, it's predictive intuition, pattern recognition at a level that feels alive. Brandon drops in occasionally with pizza or energy drinks, always grinning, always saying, "You're killing it, man, seriously. Once we get funding, you're golden." You believe him, sort of. Not because he's trustworthy, but because you're too tired not to. They call you co-founder in private. Say things like, "We're all in this together." You get added to decks, but never asked to present. You're CC'd on investor threads, but not looped into meetings. At first, you let it slide. You don't care about pitch rooms or polish. You care about the product, the engine, the thing that will make everything else irrelevant. So when they offer equity instead of a salary, you say yes. You know what you're building. You know what it's worth. Real compensation will come later. Right. But then the milestones hit. The prototype outperforms anything they've ever seen. Even in a testing sandbox, it predicts customer behavior with eerie accuracy. They hit record low bounce rates. Cart conversions climb, dwell time spikes. And you're the only one who understands why. Because you built it from the inside out. They don't understand the math. They don't even try. But they know what they've got. So they start calling it their breakthrough. "We cracked it," Brandon says at a bar one night, clinking glasses with a minor VC. You're standing 3 feet away. You smile, you toast, you say nothing. Because it's too early to pick a fight. You don't want to be the difficult one. The bitter genius. You tell yourself this is how it always starts. You'll get your share. Your name will be on the masthead eventually. But a small, sharp thought lands in the back of your skull and refuses to leave. If you disappeared tomorrow, would they even notice? Or would they just keep smiling, keep pitching, keep building the future on top of your silence? It starts with emojis. At first, the tone of the group chat changes. You used to get fire emojis when you posted updates, sometimes full paragraphs of awe from Brandon or Levi about your speed, your precision. But now, just sometimes nothing. You try not to care. You're not here for compliments. You're here to build. But the shift is there, subtle as a hairline fracture in glass. You post a breakthrough and adjustment to the algorithm that slashes processing time by 40%, and all you get is, "Cool, let's keep momentum for Friday's demo." Cool. You tell yourself it's stress. They're preparing for meetings for real money. Everyone's tense. Then they start making decisions without you. You see it first in a file product roadmap v4 final2b.xlsx. You weren't copied. They've changed the onboarding interface. They've restructured the way data's captured from new users. None of it is technically broken, but it's fragile now. It leans too heavily on what the model might predict, without understanding why it works in the first place. You bring it up. Brandon smiles at PR Smile. "We're just iterating fast. Trust the process, my dude." Your dude. You sit with that for a moment. You've been pulling 70-hour weeks sleeping on a futon next to your own router just to monitor latency spikes. And now you're my dude. The next morning you notice a calendar event you weren't invited to Investor Sync, Series A prep. You ask Levi about it. "Oh, it was just early stage, nothing formal." You're not an idiot. They've started to wall you off, not with confrontation, with quiet exclusion. They're trimming your edges from the pitch deck, turning you into a footnote before you even launch. But you still have the code. You are the code, so you decide to play dumb. You keep building. Keep responding to Slack threads. Keep submitting clean commits to the repo they think is central. Meanwhile, you create a shadow version, an offline backup with every major module under lock and key. Not to destroy anything, just in case, because that fracture in the glass, it's spreading. And if they ever try to make a clean break, you want to be holding the handle of the only door that matters. You finish the beast on a Tuesday. No fanfare, no confetti, just a terminal window blinking quietly on your laptop at 3:12 a.m., and your breath catching in your chest because it works, fully, elegantly. The code compiles clean. The behavior engine you built from scratch not only adapts in real time, it learns. It rewrites its own heuristics based on behavior clusters across anonymized data sets. It predicts intent before the user even clicks, not just what they'll buy, but why. It's not an algorithm anymore. It's a mind humming quietly inside a few thousand lines of code. You sit there staring at the screen for a long time, not moving, not smiling, just absorbing. This was the idea that lived in your notebook for years, the one no professor believed in, the one recruiters shrugged off with great concept, but we're not really doing AI stuff right now. And now it's real. You name the core file after your mother. No one will ever see that detail but you. The next day you upload a stable version to the repo they use. You keep the master copy on an encrypted drive, air-gapped, redundant, untouchable. You walk into Brandon's garage like a ghost with a secret. They're pumped. "You did it," he asks, grinning. You nod once, it's live. Cheers erupt. Levi calls someone on speaker. A round of high fives. Someone plays a celebration track off an old playlist. They act like it's their birthday, and you just showed up with a cake they forgot they ordered. Brandon claps you on the shoulder. "This is it, man. We're gonna blow up." You say nothing. But that night, as they order beer and gloat about Series A targets, you start setting up a silent key. Just one line of code, a buried command. It doesn't crash anything. It doesn't raise alarms. All it does is check for a unique digital signature yours. If that signature ever disappears, the learning engine stops adapting. It doesn't erase data. It doesn't break. It just freezes. They won't notice for weeks, maybe months. But when they do, the engine will already be cold. And no one will know how to bring it back. It's not sabotage. It's protection. Because they may be celebrating today, but you've seen how they move. The fake smiles, the deleted invites, the way Brandon calls it his breakthrough on Twitter, tagging Forbes like he's baiting a shark. They think they can replace you, so you build the thing they never will. An algorithm that remembers exactly who built it. You almost don't see the article. You're halfway through a code refactor when your phone buzzes. Not a Slack ping, not an email. A notification from a friend you haven't talked to since undergrad. "Yo, congrats, just saw this, big time." Attached is a link. AI startup Synapse breaks ground in predictive behavior tech. Bylined in TechCrunch with a glossy photo of Brandon and Levi looking like they just invented the wheel. You click, and there it is, your algorithm, your architecture, your system, all dressed up in marketing buzzwords. They call it proprietary neural analytics. They say it evolved in-house. They talk about vision and innovation and scalable machine learning pipelines. But your name, not one word. It's not just absence. It's erasure. You scroll scanning every line. There's a whole paragraph about how Brandon conceived the core tech during late nights and deep dives into behavioral psych, which is funny because you once had to explain what a sigmoid function was twice. You sit still, completely still, not out of shock, out of calculation, because now the pattern is unmistakable. They're not just using you, they're actively cutting you out, and they think you won't notice or won't care. You get up, walk around the block, let the cold air pull the heat out of your spine. By the time you return to your screen, you've made a decision. You're done waiting for fairness. You're done assuming they'll do the right thing once they get their heads above water. You created the heart of their empire, and now you know what you are to them: a ghostwriter, a stepping stone, an anonymous gear in someone else's narrative. But they forgot one thing: the code still listens to you. You go into the private backup, not the mirrored repo, the real one. You start running stress tests, tuning for precision, measuring just how fast you could dismantle the whole system if you wanted to. Not destroy it, just remove the magic. You won't make it obvious. You won't pull the plug. You'll let the performance curve dip, just enough to raise questions. Quiet bugs, invisible decay, a slow unraveling like time-lapse footage of a sandcastle melting into the tide. But you're not ready yet. Not quite. First, you need to be certain. One last olive branch. One last chance for them to do right by you. You draft an email. Subject: quick catch-up to Brandon Levi Body. Hey guys, great seeing Synapse take off. I'd love to connect soon and talk next steps, especially around equity. I know we're all running fast, but a quick sync would help align us moving forward. Let me know what works. You stare at the screen, then click send. And wait, they don't respond. Not right away, not after a few hours, not even the next day. You check your inbox compulsively, refreshing like a reflex. Nothing. No reply, no sorry been slammed, not even the courtesy of a single line brush off. Just silence. You think maybe they missed it. Maybe it landed in spam. Maybe they're out of town or off-grid or in back-to-back investor meetings. So you check their socials. Brandon's posting a selfie from a podcast studio. The caption: just shared the Synapse journey with a founder fuel grind never stops. Levi tweeted a gif of a guy sipping champagne with the text: when your tech actually scales and your inbox is pure VC thirst. And you're not even mentioned. You reread the email. You were so measured, so professional, so fair. And they didn't just ignore it. They ghosted you. On purpose. You sit at your desk, unmoving fingers curled slightly over the keys. This isn't a misunderstanding. This isn't a scheduling glitch. This is the moment they decided you were disposable. And now, you decide something too. You go quiet, not out of weakness, out of control. You stop reaching out, stop submitting pull requests, stop answering bug pings on Slack. You leave the repo alone, but encrypted air-gapped with the silent key still in place. Instead, you build your own vault, private server, local only, isolated environment where you can test, tune, modify without risk, without eyes. You start retooling the core architecture, stripping out every optimization they'll never understand, every shortcut you gave them, because it was faster to do it yourself than to explain. This is the version no one else will ever see. It's cleaner, smarter, yours. The irony: they're still using your tech every day. They're demoing it to investors, signing clients, running A/B tests powered by an engine they can't begin to reverse engineer. And they have no idea they're running it on borrowed time. Because that invisible thread, that quiet kill switch you built, it's still there. You check the signature every night. Make sure it still pings the vault. Make sure the engine still knows its maker. One wrong move and it sleeps, forever. But you're not pulling it. Not yet. You're just watching, observing, letting them build higher and higher on a foundation they think is made of steel. But you know better. It's glass. Weeks pass. Still nothing. No reply to your email, no Slack pings, not even a passive-aggressive, "Hey, hope you're doing well." They've scrubbed you clean. Your name never comes up in interviews, pitch decks, or their growing digital footprint. But the product, it's everywhere now. You see ads for it on podcasts. Your friends start mentioning Synapse like it's the future. Someone sends you a screenshot of the onboarding flow, your architecture in full bloom, still wrapped in Brandon's pitchy branding, and "we're changing the world" copy. They're scaling, they're hiring, they're thriving. And the engine, still humming, still yours. You could shut it down right now. One click, a single line of code quietly threaded into the heartbeat of the system. You could make the learning algorithm freeze, make their behavior maps flatline. Everything they promised, predictive insights, tailored engagement, frictionless funnels, would dissolve in an instant. But you don't. Not yet, because something in you still wants to believe they'll come around, that they'll realize the optics are bad, that someone on their board will say, "Hey, isn't this whole thing running on code built by the person you ghosted?" And then finally, they do reach out. Sort of. It's Levi. He sends a Slack message late one night, not even in the main channel, just a DM. "Hey, weird bug in the cart recommendation engine. Any idea why it's misfiring? Seems like the model's reverting to early logic." You stare at the message, not, "Hey, can we talk about everything?" Not, "We screwed up. Just fix this for us." You consider your options. You could ignore it, or you could do something better. You respond, "Sure, I'll take a look." You log in, and now because he asked, you make one small adjustment. You fix the bug he mentioned because, yes, it was real. You planted it, a non-destructive loop in the sorting function that flagged older behavior trees and treated them as fresh data. Easy fix, 2 lines, no ripple. But before you hit deploy, you tighten your access. You bury a deeper fingerprint reader, one that checks not just for your signature, but for behavior-based markers, how the code's updated, how often it's queried, what language is used in error messages. A style check, an authorship ID. If the system ever senses that someone else is trying to learn it, rewire it, re-architect it. It locks, not with a crash. With a silence so total, it'll take them months to even understand what broke. You push the fix. Levi thanks you with A and says, "You're a lifesaver." No follow-up, no call, no equity. You log off with the kind of calm that borders on eerie. Because now the code doesn't just work. Now it knows. It's amazing how fast people forget who built the floor they're standing on. After your quiet fix, things go eerily smooth. Levi stops messaging you. Brandon posts a video on LinkedIn about cracking the behavioral loop, complete with whiteboard doodles and phrases he clearly doesn't understand. The team publishes a Medium post that somehow attributes your adaptive recommendation system to a collective burst of insight during a late-night brainstorm. Collective. You stare at the word for a long moment. You were the brainstorm. They were the ones asking how to spell tensor. But the more they scale, the more they need to believe their own mythology. That they were always the visionaries. That you were just a lucky hire. Some dev who couldn't see the big picture. And the thing is, you let them, because you're building something else now. Not revenge, not yet. Options. You've spent the last few weeks reconstructing your original engine, but stripped of their branding, slimmed down, refined. You remove the legacy code you left behind for compatibility. Add a new interface layer. Cleaner, faster, open-ended. A framework, not a product. And it's good. So good it scares you. You test it across synthetic data sets and watch it outperform your old version. Their version by margins you didn't even think possible. The prediction curves aren't just accurate, they're intuitive. It's not just math anymore. It's language. The code talks, listens, learns. And no one else knows it exists. You think about launching it, quietly, anonymously, maybe under a shell brand. You know how the game works now. You've seen behind the curtain. You know that ideas aren't what get-funded narratives do. But before you move forward, you need closure. Not emotional, strategic. So you audit their infrastructure again. You still have backdoor access. They never close the token you used to push that fix. They probably forgot it exists. That arrogance, it's fuel. You scroll through logs, watch them expand the user base, push into new markets, launch an internal hiring sprint for a senior AI engineer. You read the job description. It's your system. Line for line. Except now they want someone to own and expand the core recommendation engine. You sit back, because this is it. They're trying to replace you. Not with a conversation, not with a handover, with a stranger. You don't panic. You just save a copy of the job post. You know what comes next. You won't rage. You'll erase. And when the light goes out, they'll scramble like people waking up in someone else's house. And you'll already be somewhere else. It starts with a misfire. They launch a new client dashboard version 3.0 branded with slick visuals and a keynote from Brandon himself. He's standing in front of a big screen in a blazer now. No more hoodies, no more garages. He calls it the future of intelligent commerce, but you know what it really is. It's a house built on borrowed code, and now they're trying to redecorate without knowing which beams hold it up. You watch the launch in real time, quietly logged into a staging monitor they forgot to revoke. Within hours, customer support threads fill with complaints. Recommendations are repeating. My results reset every login, getting irrelevant suggestions something's broken. You smile, because you know what they triggered. One of the behavior gates, the fingerprint recognition that senses unauthorized structural changes, flagged the new dashboard code. It didn't shut the system down. It didn't throw a fatal error. It just slowed the learning rate. Quietly, subtly, like a brain with a fading memory. They panic. Internal pings fly, dev threads erupt. You see a frantic message in their Ogg bug panic channel. Recs aren't refreshing. Model may be reverting to V1 logic. Who owns this? And there it is. They don't know. They've built an empire on something they never took the time to understand. A golden engine sealed inside a black box they stopped asking questions about the moment it brought them money. So when it falters, they flail. They hire a consultant, someone from a data science firm with a fancy 3-letter acronym. The guy tries to reverse engineer the logic. You watch him post his findings. It's almost funny how far off he is. He maps your custom heuristics like they're bugs, labels your adaptive sequence flow as legacy spaghetti. He has no idea he's trying to dissect a system that was designed to ignore him. Meanwhile, the core engine watches. It still recognizes you, still listens for your touch. But even you don't intervene, because this isn't the shutdown. Not yet. This is the ghost, the echo of your absence. You let them burn resources, waste time, spin internal theories. And when Brandon finally sends a mass message that reads, "Need someone who understands how this thing was actually built, any suggestions?" You think about replying. You even type the words, "You could have just asked me 6 months ago." Then delete them, because this isn't about being asked anymore. This is about reminding them what happens when you erase the person holding the map and let someone else drive blind. It's almost too easy to haunt them. You start small, a delay here, a dip in prediction confidence there. Not enough to break anything, just enough to make their investors squint at quarterly reports. Enough to make product leads whisper, "Has it always been this inconsistent?" You know the answer, and so do they. But admitting it would mean saying your name out loud again. So they don't. Instead, they overcompensate. They launch new features untested loud hollow. An A/B test on homepage layouts triggers a cascade failure in the rec engine. Suddenly, customers get stuck in loops. One user reports seeing the same 3 items on every page for 3 days straight. You could stop it. You don't. Instead, you send a test ping from the Go system. A tiny blip, a coded message buried in diagnostic logs, just a single word encrypted in the telemetry signature. Original. You leave it there like a fingerprint. No crash, no threat, just a whisper from inside the walls. They find it. You watch Levi post in their Slack. "Someone's messing with us. Did we ever revoke the old dev certs?" Brandon replies, "Everything important's been rebuilt since then." But he's wrong. You never needed the keys they thought mattered. You built the lock. The silence afterward is telling. They stop shipping new features, pause experiments, start interviewing for another AI lead to audit the core. And you keep building your version. You register a shell company, quiet, unbranded. You buy a domain no one would link to you. You start pulling from public datasets to retrain your engine. Not because the old one's weak, but because you've outgrown it. You start imagining a world where you launch. Not to compete, to eclipse. But before that, there's one more test. You create a fork of their current build, patch the holes, restore the intelligence, fix the feedback delay. It takes 2 hours. Because when you build something from love and not greed, it listens. Then you draft a second message. This one isn't encrypted. It's just a line in a buried README file hosted on a mirror they don't even know they're still pulling from. You built nothing, you borrowed everything. Return it or watch it fade. You don't sign it. You don't need to. They'll know. Because only one person ever made the machine understand. And only one person ever made it choose silence. The message lands on a Tuesday, buried inside a system log folded into the timestamp trail like a whisper at the bottom of a well. You don't expect them to catch it immediately, and they don't. But 2 days later, someone notices. You see the Slack thread pop up in their internal diagnostics channel. Anyone know where this came from? Redme-timestamp.log. Hikenba. Content. You built nothing, you borrowed everything. Return it or watch it fade. No one claims it. Brandon replies, could be an old test file from early Dev. Levi says weird, that folder hasn't been touched in months. A third dev asks, is this a threat? And for the first time in a long time, they panic. They bring in legal. You know this because suddenly access patterns shift, firewalls tighten, logins start forcing password resets, audit trails double. They even try to trace the mirror repo you used. They can't. You built that tunnel 6 layers deep. Meanwhile, the system continues its slow slide. Behavioral predictions desync slightly with session logs. Return user funnels fracture. Machine confidence scores drift just a few degrees each week, but enough to trigger questions from sales, from product, from clients. You watch Brandon post in a private channel. We need a complete rebuild if we can't get ahead of this. Start a task force. Rip out the engine if we have to. But it's too late, because they can't rip out something they never understood how to install. You gave them elegance. They tried to scale it with ego. And now? They're asking the wrong questions to the wrong people, digging through layers of obfuscated logic, hunting for a fix in a system that isn't broken. It's withholding. The code still functions, just not for them. Because this machine has memory and loyalty. It doesn't punish, it remembers. And you've moved on. Well, almost. You still check in once a day, like watching a locked door from a safe distance. Just enough to make sure they haven't figured it out yet. Spoiler, they haven't. The irony is poetic. They raised millions off your idea. They built entire teams on top of your foundation. And the only person who can save it is the one they ghosted. You almost feel bad. Almost. But then you remember the silence, the deleted emails, the moment you realized you were never part of their future, just a tool to get them there. So no, you don't feel bad. You feel done. The call comes from a number you don't recognize. You let it ring out. Then it calls again and again. Finally, curiosity cracks your calm. You answer on the 4th ring saying nothing. Just silence. The voice on the other end. Brandon, desperate and suddenly small. Hey, look, I don't know what's going on, but we need to talk. You don't speak. You want to see what he says when he thinks he still has the upper hand. I know there were issues. I know things weren't perfect. Okay, but we're in a situation here. Things aren't working like they should. Some of the models are reverting, some are just stalling. It's like the system forgot how to think. You smile. He continues. I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm just saying if you know something, if you can help. You cut in. Calm even. You mean help rebuild the thing you tried to erase me from. A pause. Then, no one tried to erase you, man. Things got fast. Messy. We should have handled it better. That we again. He still won't own it. So you ask the question that finally brings the truth to the surface. Who filed the patent? Silence. Long tout. Then, I didn't know they were putting my name on it. Legal just pushed it through. Lear! You can hear it in the tremble of his breath. I can fix that, he says quickly. We'll add you as co-creator or sole creator. Whatever you want. Just please, we're hemorrhaging clients. Our recommendation engine is flatlining. Investors are asking questions I can't answer. You sit still, because this isn't a negotiation. This is history trying to rewrite itself before it collapses. You wait a beat, then ask, do you still have the first commit logs? Another pause. He doesn't know. You do. I've got the original repo, the timestamp builds, the encrypted model trails, every line that proves exactly what was mine and what you dressed up like your own. Okay, Brandon says quieter now. Okay, what do you want? You already know, but you don't say it yet. You let him sweat in the silence. Let him feel the stillness that comes after a storm when you realize the power is never where you thought it was. Email me, you say, with everything, terms, names, apologies, I want it in writing. And if I do, you pause, then lie gently. Then maybe I'll help. You hang up before he can respond. Because this isn't about fixing what they broke. This is about watching them finally admit they broke it. The email arrives at 2:12 a.m., titled Let's Make It Right. You open it with the steady calm of someone reading a confession that came 2 years too late. It's from Brandon. He's trying to sound professional, composed, like this is just another tough conversation between colleagues. But buried in the body between the boilerplate and the buzzwords is what matters. We acknowledge your foundational contributions to Synapse's core recommendation engine and regret the earlier lack of formal recognition. Regret, like it was an oversight, a clerical error. Like you misplaced a file instead of being systematically erased from your own invention. We're open to retroactively adjusting the attribution and discussing compensation or licensing terms going forward. Open to. It's all so carefully phrased, so surgically void of accountability. No, we took what you made. No, we shut you out. Just soft language meant to sound collaborative when what they really mean is, please fix the thing we broke. You could reply, list your terms, demand equity back pay first name credits. You could walk back into that room with fire in your pocket and command the very system they tried to rebuild without you. But you don't. You close the email. You don't respond. Because the truth is, they don't deserve your code. They deserve absence. You open the vault one last time. The original engine waits quiet, perfect, patient. You deactivate the key signature embedded in their system. Not a deletion, not destruction, just withdrawal. The algorithm doesn't crash. It goes still. Recommendations stop adapting. Patterns stop shifting. The intelligence they bragged about becomes static logic, fixed like a compass pointed nowhere. From the outside, it looks like a glitch, a slowdown, a lull. But it's not. It's an exodus. They think you ghosted them. Now the code has too. And as for the forked version, the real one, the next-gen engine you've been refining in secret, you close the tab on that too. Not to destroy it, to protect it. You're no longer interested in being someone else's silent foundation. You're not here to power their narrative. You're building your own now, somewhere else. Somewhere yours, they spiral fast. Within days of the system freezing, public sentiment starts to slip. Clients complain, user metrics stall. A few sharp-eyed analysts on Twitter notice that Synapse's engine has lost its edge. One even posts a side-by-side comparison of the platform's recommendations pre- and post-update. The new ones feel generic, off, empty. And the worst part, Brandon doesn't know how to explain it. He spins the story as systemic realignment, calls it a model recalibration for scalability, posts a Medium piece full of vague sentences like, we're exploring long-term sustainability of behavioral models in a high-scale environment. Translation, we have no idea what went wrong. Investors start circling like vultures, sensing weakness. One of their big clients, an e-commerce brand they've been flaunting in every pitch deck, announces a temporary pause on the partnership. You watch it all unfold from a distance. No interference, no noise. Just stillness. It's the same feeling you had when you first finished building the algorithm. That quiet, glowing certainty. Except this time, you're watching something end, not bloom. And still Brandon keeps reaching out. Another call, another message, another let's talk. He even tries sending someone else, Levi, then, one of their new junior engineers. They leave voicemails that start upbeat, then trail into nervous apologies. But you don't pick up. You don't reply. Because you already did your part. You gave them the future. They used it for attention. You built a brain. They dressed it in buzzwords and tossed it into press kits. And now the lights are going out one by one across an empire that never learned how to protect its own heartbeat. What they don't know. You're not angry anymore. Not bitter, not even smug. Just finished. There's a deep kind of peace that comes when you stop needing justice to look like fireworks. Sometimes justice is a room full of people asking each other questions they should have asked you. And sometimes justice is just your silence walking calmly out the door while they realize it's locked from the inside. You don't even find the patent they send it to you, tucked inside an attachment in an email from Levi labeled for transparency. It's a scanned copy of the filing, Clean and official. U.S. Patent and Trademark Office seal at the top. Filed under Synapse Technologies, Inc. Inventor Brandon K. Wiles, co-inventor Levi Yates. There's no mention of you. Not in the inventorship. Not in the technical background. Not in the citations. But you recognize every diagram. The behavioral cluster flow. That's yours. The inference tree structure. You wrote it at 2 a.m. on a napkin, then ported it to Python. The real-time preference modifier that was your patch after the version 1.2 regression. It's not just unethical. It's theft, sanitized and legalized. They thought you were gone, thought you wouldn't notice. Or maybe worse, they thought you'd be too tired to care, like so many others. Just another name erased from the records of a shiny tech myth. But they filed it after the freeze, which means they were still clinging to your code, your system, even as it stopped breathing in their hands. That's what makes you laugh. Because they didn't replace you? They just claimed you. Brandon sends a follow-up. We know this was an oversight. There's room to amend the record. Let's just talk and clean it all up. Clean it up, like it's a stain on the floor, not a betrayal sewn into the company's foundation. You don't reply. Instead, you forward the patent to a lawyer, just one you trust, someone who once helped you review IP clauses when a different company tried to slip ownership of your freelance code into a boilerplate NDA. She reads the file and replies in 18 minutes. This is textbook IP misappropriation. You have time-stamped commits, design records, written proof of contribution. If you want to pursue this, they don't have a case. You don't need money. You don't even need revenge. You just need to own your work. Because they tried to cast you as the ghost. Now, you're the author. They're the ones pretending not to be haunted. And you're done being quiet. You let them make one more mistake. They hold a press conference, small, poorly lit, with a shaky live stream and a panel of grim-faced executives. Brandon sits in the middle jaw tight blazer, a little too big. He opens with an exciting vision for the next phase of Synapse. You nearly roll your eyes. He goes on about transitioning the engine, rebuilding the recommendation model in-house, and stepping confidently into the next evolution of our platform. No apology, no acknowledgement, no correction. You weren't expecting one, but then he says it. The innovations we're continuing to refine, which were first imagined and implemented by our internal team. He stops there, like that sentence isn't radioactive. You pause the stream. Rewind. Replay. That's the moment. That's when you decide. You've given them too many chances. And every time they took it as weakness, as forgiveness, as a green light to keep rewriting history. But now you pull the plug. You log into the last access node, the one they never found, the one that lives at the edge of the old infrastructure, still pinging, still loyal. You type 3 commands, each one deliberate. You hit enter. There's no explosion, no alert, no red lights or sirens. The system just stops. The behavior engine halts. The data flow slows to a trickle. Prediction queues collapse. Their interface doesn't crash, it just returns blank results. Like a brain without a thought. They won't know what happened for hours, maybe days. But when they check the logs, they'll see the last entry left by the core process itself, your final line of code before the engine closed its eyes. The original is no longer present, functionality suspended. You sit back, and it's not triumph you feel, it's clarity. They built an empire on your back, then broke the spine that carried it. They thought silence meant surrender, that the absence of conflict was the same as compliance. But now they know better. Now they're left with a brand and no soul. And you're finally out from under the weight of a system that never deserved your brilliance. You didn't destroy it. You just walked away, and the machine followed. It takes them 3 days to publicly admit something's wrong. They issue a vague update on their website. We are currently undergoing system maintenance to improve platform performance. Some features may be temporarily limited. Internally, they're spiraling. You see the ripple effect from a distance industry newsletter speculating LinkedIn whispers, Reddit threads crawling with half-informed tech sleuths. A former contractor posts anonymously. They lost their secret sauce. Something in the rec engine tanked. Feels like the brain left the body. Someone else adds, honestly, it hasn't felt smart in weeks. They're right. The engine didn't break. It simply stopped caring. It's poetic in a way, a machine built on human behavior, reflecting exactly what it absorbed betrayal, theft, ego. Now it mirrors that back with silence. But what really seals it? You get a DM from one of their developers. Not Brandon, not Levi. A new hire. You've never met. Hey, I know this is weird, but I've been trying to figure out the behavior system. It's brilliant, honestly, elegant. Like nothing I've seen. And I found traces. Logs, comments, even the commit notes. They erased your name, but I know you were the architect. Just wanted to say I see you. And if you ever build again, I'd follow. You sit with that for a moment, not because it surprises you, but because it confirms something deeper. The truth always survives, even if it's buried, even if it's whitewashed and repackaged and sold without credit. The truth has fingerprints. And yours are everywhere, not just in the code, in the architecture, in the ethic of it, in the fact that even stripped and weakened your system still had enough grace to exit cleanly without crashing. That's who you are, not just the person who built it, the person who refused to let it be misused. You close the DM. You don't reply. You don't need to. The signal has already echoed through the static. You were never just the builder. You were the conscience. And now, you're free. They keep trying. You almost admire it, the stubborn insistence that if they just work harder, hire smarter, throw more jargon at the problem, it'll fix itself. They bring in outside consultants. You recognize one of them from a TED Talk called The Soul of Data. You wonder what he'll say when he realizes the soul he's here to fix never belonged to them. They put out a job post titled Lead AI Re-Architecture Strategist. You read the description. It's full of empty promises and recycled phrases. At the bottom, it says, seeking builders who want to shape the future. You laugh quietly because you already did that. But not here, not anymore. You've been building something else in the background. Not a product, not a platform, a presence. Quiet, but deliberate, under a different name, different domain, different rhythm. You're not chasing headlines. You're not pitching to VCs with slide decks built on buzzwords. You're building like you did at the start, for the idea. Your new engine doesn't just learn from data, it adapts based on purpose. Not just what users do, but why. The emotional context behind patterns, behavior with memory. It's not reactive, it's reflective, and it doesn't need anyone's permission to exist. You've stopped thinking about launch. That's the old world. Instead, you release it in pieces. Let it drift into developer forums. Leave the door unlocked. Let people find it. No name, no face, just a quiet fingerprint in the corner of the code, built by someone who remembers what it means to care. Meanwhile, Synapse goes quieter by the week. No updates, no press, a flatline that no one wants to acknowledge. You hear they lost another round of funding, that the board's circling, that Brandon hasn't posted in 23 days. He knows, they all do, that the empire was never really theirs. It was on loan, and you've reclaimed it. Not with fire, but with freedom. They make one last move. A quiet blog post, buried on their site. No tweets, no fanfare, just a few paragraphs titled A Transition at Synapse. It reads like a goodbye letter that doesn't know how to say goodbye. They call it a pivot. They say they're shifting away from behavior modeling to focus on new avenues in enterprise data tooling. It's spin, obvious spin. There's no mention of the engine, no mention of its architect, no admission of what went wrong. But between the lines you see it. This is the surrender, the quiet collapse of something built on stolen bones. You click away. You don't need to keep watching. That story's over. You're already writing a new one. Your project, your real project, has started to spread. Developers you've never met leave comments like, "This feels alive. Where the hell did this come from? It just understands me." They don't know your name. You don't want them to. Not yet. Because this time it's not about being known. It's about being right. About creating something that isn't just fast or scalable or fundable. Something honest. You look back exactly once. Back at the place where it all started, Brandon's garage, now long emptied. You found a listing for it last week. It's up for lease, stripped down to drywall and dust. No hint of what was built there. No trace of who made it work. And that's fine. Because history always forgets the hands. But the machine, the real one, it remembers. You press deploy on the newest module. A soft click. A breath, and then silence as something very old and very personal begins again, far from the noise, far from the theft. This time entirely yours. You didn't plan to start over. Not like this. But here you are, sitting in a quiet cafe, headphones on a clean terminal open, and the strange, thrilling blankness of no deadlines, no board meetings, no Brandon. Just possibility. You're rebuilding not out of spite, but out of clarity. The old code taught you everything you needed to know about yourself, what you'll tolerate, what you won't, and more importantly, what you're truly capable of when no one's trying to claim it. People start showing up. First, it's one or two developers who stumbled across your open source snippets. Then it's 5. Then it's a dozen. Not followers, peers. They don't know who you are, but they recognize what you've built. One of them messages you with, "This isn't just efficient, it's elegant." That word again. The one they never used back at Synapse. They never saw the beauty. You did, and now, so do others. You start keeping a list of contributors, not names, just initials. Not for credit, for gratitude. You finally built something no one can take from you because it's not a product. It's a practice, and it's growing. Quietly, like Roots news breaks. Not about you, about them. Synapse announces it's dissolving operations, reallocating resources, refocusing the mission. Corporate terms for "we failed." There's a farewell letter from Brandon, full of platitudes, proud of the journey, grateful for the team. Not a single word about the algorithm. Not a single admission of how they got there or why they couldn't stay. But in tech, everyone forgets fast. Your name was never part of their downfall. But somehow, it's quietly appearing elsewhere. A Medium post about adaptive engines credits a now-defunct system with mysterious origins that changed the way we model attention. A podcast host refers to a phantom architect who wrote a system no one could replicate. You didn't ask for legend, but it's growing anyway. Not fame, not fortune, recognition, the right kind. And that's when the first offer lands. An email from a research lab, then another from a startup that isn't shady, isn't loud, just curious, humble. One line sticks with you. We're not asking to own it. We're asking to learn from it. You sit with that, because for the first time, someone isn't trying to build on you. They're asking to build with you. You haven't decided yet. And maybe you won't, because this time you get to say no. And even if the answer is silence, it's yours. You walk past their old office building. Not on purpose. Just one of those moments the universe arranges when you're ready to see something clearly. The sign's been stripped from the glass. The logo's been scraped from the doors. Inside, you see cardboard boxes, empty desks, wires coiled like veins with nowhere left to run. A ghost town of ambition. You stop for a second, but you don't go in. What would be the point? There's nothing left in there for you. And outside is wide open. Your phone buzzes. A message from someone who just finished integrating your adaptive loop into their mental health platform. They say it's helping people feel seen. Not targeted, seen. That's what you always wanted. Not influence, impact. You built something with a soul, and now it's finding its way into spaces where it can breathe. You smile, tuck your hands into your coat, and keep walking. No more ghosts to chase. No more empires to haunt. Just you. Free. Still building. And finally seen. Don't expect the knock. It's metaphorical, of course, an email, not a door. But it lands the same way. Short, polite, different. Not from a recruiter or a brand trying to white label your work. It's from a teacher, someone running a free coding boot camp for underserved students. They've stumbled across your open source library. They don't want to use it commercially. They want to teach it. You wrote it in a way that makes people curious, they say. That's rare. We'd love to walk students through it. You read that line 3 times, because after all the branding, the VC buzz, the corporate theft, you never imagined the most meaningful application of your work would show up here, in a classroom, on a whiteboard. You give them permission. No contracts, no NDAs, just a quiet yes. A week later, they send you a photo. A group of students, 20 maybe, all standing around a projector screen smiling. One of them's pointing at your code on the wall. You never thought you'd tear up at indentation syntax. But here you are, the system they tried to bury. It's teaching someone how to build, not to sell, to understand. That's legacy, not the empire. You open the vault one last time, not because anything's wrong, but because you're ready. The original files sit there like old photographs, untouched, pure. The raw engine you built alone in a garage while others were planning launch parties and investor decks. You remember every version, every bug you squashed at 3 a.m., every feature they mocked until it worked too well to ignore. You don't feel anger. You feel reverence. Because for all the noise, all the headlines, all the drama, they couldn't touch this. The real code, the soul of it never needed their approval. You zip it all into one encrypted archive, store it in 3 different places, burn a copy to a drive, you slip into a drawer alongside your passport and your grandmother's watch. Not to hide it, to honor it. Because that engine, that was your first truth, and it deserves to rest. You close the lid on the laptop, and for the first time since this all began, there's no tension in your jaw, no knots in your shoulders, no plans spinning in the back of your mind. Just breath and space, the echo. The final message comes unexpectedly. A simple email from Brandon, subject for what it's worth. You almost delete it unread. But then curiosity wins. The message is short, no groveling, no spin. You were right. We thought we could scale you. We couldn't. You built something we never understood. I hope it's living somewhere better now. No signature, no ask, just those words. You sit with it, not because it changes anything, but because it confirms everything. They saw it, all along, even when they acted like they didn't. And now they know, but you're already gone, already growing in new soil. New projects, new collaborations, new purpose. You're not building out of spite anymore. You're building with peace. The engine lives in new forms, now smarter, gentler, quietly reshaping the way people interact with tech. Not to predict them, but to respect them. That's the real win, not the downfall, not the revenge, but that something made from pain became something that helps people feel seen. You close the message, then you archive it and get back to work. You sit at your window as the day folds in on itself, the sky dimming slowly, like it's not in a hurry to leave. Everything around you is quiet now, not empty, just quiet. The kind that comes after. After the noise, after the fight, after the story told itself all the way through. You watch a pair of kids walk past on the street laughing about something you can't hear. One of them holds a tablet, probably playing with code, maybe tracing the beginnings of their own algorithm. You hope they get to build without being erased. You hope they don't have to armor up just to protect what's theirs. But even if they do, maybe now it'll be a little easier. Because somewhere out there, your work is still humming, still learning, still helping. It doesn't have your name stamped across it. Doesn't need to. It just works. And that's the part no one could steal. Because the truth, you didn't just build a system. You built a standard, one that says you don't have to shout to own your voice. You don't have to win by burning it all down. Sometimes just walking away with your head high, your data backed up, and your integrity intact is enough. Some nights just lying still and breathing softly is enough to return home to yourself. End of script. Thank you for listening.